Mike, out of curiosity, I know you came here and you talked to some of the guys before you guys all got together for training camp, but at what point did you feel like you were no longer like a new coach with a new group, and did you kind of just start to feel like you learned how guys ticked and the temperament of this team?
Man, that's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously everybody was real welcoming, and and I always try to tell guys I'm gonna be open and honest, so you be open and honest with me. And I think I can't remember. We started 2-3 maybe, and just keeping conversations real and having hard conversations at that time made you forget that this was your first year. We just got to keep trying to figure out a way, and the engagement that they had early on with the process was really good, and the help that I got from our coaches made it even better, especially the ones that had been here. So probably pretty early on,
Mike, we've made a lot, obviously, about you guys switching offensive systems in the playoffs. But is that something, one, that you started working on right from the beginning of the year, so you always had it in your pocket? And two, just, I guess, how did it, when you finally made the decision to pull the trigger, was that you saying it, Kat suggesting it, Chris Jansen?
I always look at it as just evolving. I came in with an idea during training camp, and for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. It didn't fit everybody, exactly how I thought it would, and so you try to tweak some things as you move along, and we made a pretty big tweak about halfway through the year. And then, in the playoffs, I've said this already a handful of times, Atlanta, they're really good, and Quinn Snyder and his group, and all these teams have been really good, and they've made us play a little different. We played a little different, or we emphasized certain things against Cleveland that we didn't emphasize as much against Philly, that we didn't emphasize as much against Atlanta. And so continuing to try to find ways to help the group score in the half court was something that we all put our minds to. And after, I think, Game 3, it's like, bam, here it is, and I get welcoming suggestions from our players. I get welcoming suggestions from our coaches, and I always just try to say, hey, this is probably the best for the team, and go with it. And fortunately, it helped us out during that series, and it's helped us out since.
Mike, you guys had the long layup after the last game, after the last series, and then in Game 1, you guys obviously were down 22 and had to come back. Just what do you learn from the last time you guys had the long layup in between series that you can apply to this layup to make sure you guys are ready to go from the start of Game 1 in the final?
It's one thing. It's hard, and I experienced this in the past before even coming here. It's hard to manufacture the competitive environment that you're going to be in Game 1, and so to continue to just find different ways to keep that competitive spirit or to keep that edge as high as you can is something that I'll ask different players, I'll ask my staff, I'll get input from a few different people, and may roll with this, may roll with that. But the biggest thing that I think should help us is knowing that as a group, the last time we went through this, we started off a little slow in that game, and we can't afford to do that again. And our guys, the veteran group, they've been really resilient, and they've done a good job of growing quickly anytime they've hit adversity.
Does that look like more scrimmages? Does that look like what does that look like in terms of keeping guys?
No, I mean, you can only have so many scrimmages because there's only so many days, and you got to make sure that and knock on wood, you give them time to recover from the scrimmages. So it can't be about much more increased contact, but just the biggest thing is reminding them what happened in game one of our last series and letting them know that when you're watching these teams, it can't happen this time around.
Mike, when you're playing this well, does it matter who you play next?
No, it doesn't. You know, if we expect to be who we think we are, then, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If we played San Antonio, it'd save me some money because my family lives in San Antonio. I don't have to buy airline tickets. So, but at the end of the day, both teams are great, and both teams will be a challenge for us.
And you're focused.
Yeah, that's all. We're ready to go.
Right. Yeah, watching the trophy celebration the other night, there's all these non-Knicks out there, these celebrities. Was that like all your other past celebrations? And have you gotten to know these folks at all? Like, I remember beginning of the season, you said Spike gave you a hug, and you weren't sure Spike even knew who you were up until then. What's it like now?
You know, I've actually gotten to know Fat Joe a little bit. You know, he used to kill me about my shoes. he used to kill me. He tried to tell me I need to get some Nikes because they got more cushion and all this stuff. And he took a picture of my stepson, and my stepson was fired up. And I've always been a fan of his, but he's probably the only one that I've really gotten to know. Again, I talked to Spike a couple of times. I really haven't talked to anybody else. I know that she's going to kill me, but when we were, my wife will row, Ben Stiller was over there. I don't think I've ever met Ben, but he was over there, and she was like, "Ben's over there." I was like, "Go get a picture. I'm sure he'll take a picture with you." "No, I can't do it." So, you know, Fat Joe's probably the only guy that really knows Spike too a little bit, but it was cool. It was cool to have him there.
Coach, I asked Jalen what he took away from Coach Wright in playing days there in Villanova that he takes into every single day today, and he said attitude, and that's something to emphasize in that program. It's something that you emphasize here on this level as well. How do you think the attitude of this team right now has kind of helped propel them this postseason and just the unselfish play that they have?
Man, you know, you could tell Coach Wright has instilled a lot of great qualities in all of these guys. They're selfless. They all have a competitive spirit. You know, they're all about the right stuff. And they're great human beings to be around. So I'm sure it wasn't just Coach Wright. It was, you know, who helped raise them. But to be able to play for him and have that continue at the highest level while competing for championships in college definitely made my job easier. And, you know, when you have guys like that and those guys are the leaders of your team, when you're talking about all of them, then it rubs off on everybody else, and it just makes for a fantastic environment to be a part of.
All right, a couple more. Mike, Jalen has been such a huge inspiration to the team, organization. How has he kind of helped set the culture and establish that for the team?
You know, anytime that any job, in any walk of life, you want people that are serious about their job, that have a high work ethic, you know that getting the job done, it ain't going to be easy, and I'm going to embrace it. Not only am I going to embrace it, I'm going to bring everybody else along with me. And so when you have that from your best player, it makes it easier for me to coach everybody else, you know, because he's open to it and he responds well to it. And, you know, that doesn't happen on a lot of teams. And so for it to happen here, again, makes all of our jobs easier because of who he is.
All right, last one. Which one can I post?
I'm not going to ask. I mean, you've been to the finals with a bunch of different teams over the years. Like,
Yeah.
is there any common thread that you found in them in any way that you take from them, and how you approach this, and how a lot of guys in this room who haven't been to the finals before?
Yeah, the biggest thing is you have to enjoy it, because this doesn't happen. Some guys never make it here, you know, and this is what most people play for, is to have a chance to, at the end of the year, say you won your last game. So you can walk around in the summertime with your chest out and all that other stuff amongst your peers. Having said that, you know, that there are a lot more distractions that you got to navigate. So you have to be, talking to Alan Houston, he used the right word when I was talking to him about it, but you have to be real intentional about what you're doing, because you're going to get pulled in so many different directions, and everybody's human, and it's natural to get pulled here, get pulled a little here, get pulled a little there, and think that you're okay. But at the end of the day, after doing the media and practicing and getting pulled 3 or 4 different directions, because you're going to have your family around you, you're going to have friends around you, you're going to have people wanting tickets, you're going to have people wanting to go on this show and that show. At the end of the day, you may not realize it, but it could be fatiguing for you to do all of that stuff while trying to focus on some of the biggest games in your life. So, you know, again, going off of what word Alan Houston used, trying to be intentional about everything that we do during this time while keeping an edge is going to be huge.